Hello, my name is Matthew, and we are on shelf 29 of my tiny house library tour. And if you're interested in any of the books that I'm going to show, please let me know. You can send me an email. We can work something out. You'll be supporting my plans to visit Spain. I also have a GoFundMe link if that interests you as well. But let's look at the books, and this is a great shelf. These are some of my favorite books, and they're mostly hardbacks, really nice, pretty, all of those things. It's a fantastic edition of Middlemarch by George Eliot. I've read this twice. I read it once for a college class, and I read it again to talk with my friend Bob. And this is a Penguin Classics. Just really pretty. John Dos Passos, and this is the entire USA trilogy. I believe this is, what do they call it? Yeah, this is a Library of America edition, and it has the 42nd Parallel, 1919, and the Big Money. And this is a great trilogy, three great novels about um, America in the early 20th century. It's has ribbon. I just love his experimental style. It's really clear storytelling, but he uses a lot of interesting techniques, things like newsreels and advertisements, articles, radio announcements, all of these different, at the time, new media to tell a bigger story, and it's a great story. So, John Dos Passos USA trilogy, a portrait of the artist, a portrait of the artist as a young man by James Joyce, and this is a strange edition. I bought it because it's so unusual. It's penguins, and they call it drop caps. I'm not really sure why, but it's all green. Uh, and I'm not a big fan of this novel, actually. I really the only thing I really prefer with James Joyce is his short story collection, Dubliners, Araby, and Dead, and a handful of others. Speaking of James Joyce, it's a modern library edition. I must have lost the dust jacket, but this is Ulysses, his big, notable modernist work. The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens. And cats are having fun. Is it Nell? Is that who this is? Well, anyway, I'm a fan of Charles Dickens. It's a beautiful, beautiful edition. I think that the shelf up there, I showed the Everyman Library copy of The Trial, and this is the collected stories. I bought this right around the same time, and it's just great. I'm a big fan of Kafka and his sensibilities, that um, really ominous, dark humor, that absurdity that just strikes you. This has the Judgment, the Stoker, the Metamorphosis in the penal colony. I remember my friend Bob telling me about the in the penal colony. Modern Library edition of Moby Dick by Herman Melville, and this has, I believe, this has the illustrations by Rockwell Kent, I believe, if I'm correct. And this is the Moby Dick that I've read every time. Every time I've read this book. I'm trying to see if there's more. Look at that whale. Isn't that great? I want to see if it says that it's illustrated by Rockwell Kent. Yeah, illustrated by Rockwell Kent. Okay. The Metamorphosis by Ovid. And this is translated by Alan Mandelbaum. I'm actually reading The Metamorphosis right now. I'm reading a different translation, but it's a beautiful edition. The Republic by Plato. Again, it's attractive hardback cover. And it's really not my favorite work by Plato by a mile. I really prefer the early dialogues. Smaller, more focused, more time. I don't know. But the Republic. Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. And this is another one of the Penguin classics. This whole line is really impressive. I like, I really like how they handled the design. And I keep saying this over and over, but it's great, and it's not so much different, but so much more expansive. The actual adult novel is so much more expansive and daring than any of the TV or movie adaptations, which I think they really just stick with like the two travels. And Gulliver went all over the place. The Idiot, Dostoevsky, and it seems like Everyman Library hooked up with Richard Pever and Volonkonsky. So there's several of these by that translating duo. It's one of my favorite books, not my favorite translation. In fact, it seems like for as much as I can rely on their translations to be enjoyable, almost every time I have an alternative, the alternative just seems to always be my preference. But it's The Idiot. A Hero of Our Time by Lermontov, Mikhail Lermontov, and this is translated by Nabokov. It's Vladimir and Dmitry Nabokov. So, two Nabokovs translated this. And I actually, I can't think of the name right now, but there's another translation that I liked a lot better than this one. And I can't remember what it was. It was maybe stuffy or overworked or stylized or something. Maybe I could say it felt like Nabokov was on the page. The Border Trilogy by Cormac McCarthy, and I haven't read this. I haven't touched it. The only two things I've read by Cormac McCarthy was The Road, which I thought was okay. It's like a dystopian father and son adventure story, getting from A to B. And then Blood Meridian, which I didn't care for, and it almost he's an author that aggravates me so much more than it really should, because I haven't really read him, but it's the name I always hear. Not anytime recently, but for so long, anytime I was at a coffee shop or out somewhere reading, and there was someone that came over to want to talk about what I was reading and things like that, Cormac McCarthy just seem to always come up. And for the longest time, I hadn't read them. And then there was a back and forth about Cormac McCarthy and how he's this great writer. And that might all be well and good, but I've read a few books, you know, so I'm okay having my blind spots. Um, and from the two things that I've read, Blood Meridian and the Road, after that, I didn't have. I still don't have much interest in reading this. They might be great. I don't know. The Karamazov Brothers by Dostoevsky, again translated by Richard Pever and Volonkonsky. Um, for the Karamazov Brothers and The Idiot, my preferred translator is Ignat Avesy. Um, he has a handful of things that he's translated that are just always superb. He's one of my favorite Russian translators, and it's funny that the dust jacket is on upside down. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, just great. I love this collection. So this is the plays by W.B. Yeats, and he's mostly known as a poet, at least nowadays. From what I understand, he's not as well regarded as a playwright, even though um, apparently he thought that being a playwright was going to be his true calling, or it was a higher form, or something like that. Not as popular. And I love these plays. I haven't read all of them. It's got a lot in here, but um, the stories, each one that I've read, they all have this similar feeling of like the unknown and the like a mythology about them that is just strange and engaging. I can understand why these might not work really well on stage for an audience, but for a reading experience, it's so unusual. And I tend to give W.B. Yeats a lot of goodwill, but it's just such a great volume. The Arabian Nights. That green. Yeah, olive green. And so this is a selection of the nights. It's going to be the. Let's see if I can get to the table of contents. Yeah, Sinbad and the genies and all sorts of magical creatures appear in this like tumbling storytelling. The stories like fall into themselves. I haven't read the whole thing. This is another one of those bedtime books. Earlier on, I showed the Penguin 3-volume set of the complete Arabian Nights, which I'm actually slowly working through. Probably 5 years from now, or 1,001 Nights from now. But yeah, beautiful. Montaigne, the complete works of Montaigne. And it's funny, I had that big Penguin edition of the complete works by Montaigne, and I haven't seen it yet, and I can't imagine that I would have gotten rid of it, so I don't know where that could be. But another great bedtime book for me. I again haven't read the whole thing. This is exactly the kind of book that I'll keep on my nightstand or at my bedside, Um, and when I'm in between novels or not feeling like reading my novel, I'll just sit and read essays. And you just learn about Montaigne's like view of the world and all of his ideas and thoughts and his thoughtfulness. Uh, One of the few times where um, something like this, like an essay format, would keep me up at night. I'll read the next one, things like that. And I think this is the Screech translation. No, no. What am I thinking? Donald Frame. Donald Frame. The Cossacks. The Cossacks by Leo Tolstoy. Look at that. Uh, One of my favorite middle length works by Tolstoy. The Haji Marat, however you say that, Death of Ivan Ilyich, um, and the Cossacks. I'd like to just spend an afternoon and read this again. This is probably what I would recommend if someone was looking to read something by Tolstoy and they didn't want to start with Anna Karenina or War and Peace. This is probably a really good start. The Symposium and Phaedrus, two dialogues by Plato. Uh, and they're not. I really don't go back to this. There's other dialogues by Plato that I enjoy a lot more. Ion is one of my favorite dialogues. Um, I love the setup, the drinking party and Socrates arriving and uh, wanting to sit next to Alcibiades and all that. But um, uh, when they start talking about love, all these old men talking about love, uh, it's not as interesting. Um, Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. This is one of the books that Bob had recommended. Um, and depending on how you read this, it's great fun. It's Becky Sharp, it's a great name, and just her kind of picaresque tale. But it's serialized, it's episodic. You can, again, you could have this at your bedside and just take 6 months going through the stories. The story arc kind of goes up and just plateaus for about 800 pages, and then it wraps up. So, not nearly as intimidating as it looks. Um, a Sportsman's Notebook by Ivan Turgenev, and it's translated from the Russian by Charles and Natasha Hepburn. And the title I've seen in different versions. So this is a Sportsman's Notebook, and it's great collection of short stories by Turgenev. He's one of my favorite uh, Russian writers, probably right at the heels of Dostoevsky. The Adolescent, again, translated by Richard Pever and Larissa Volonkonsky. Um, and I think this is the only translation I've read, so I guess it's my favorite translation. He wrote this, I believe he wrote this right before the Karamazov brothers. Um, there was such a great um, uh, perspective in the book. So we had the main character, I can't remember his name, but um, he's basically in the dark. There's all this stuff happening around. He's trying to piece it together, and he's not doing a great job. He's not as um, observant, maybe, as he thinks he is. A very adolescent quality, I suppose. Um, Malone Dies, and The Unnameable by Samuel Beckett. It's great. Um, so yeah, it's it's the trilogy. Um, I don't know if it's his best work. I don't know if it's my favorite thing by Beckett. I do tend to enjoy his plays, but as far as like the modernist novel, um, I would recommend this over Ulysses every day of the week. Um, I, and I tend to think that even when Beckett goes obscure or esoteric or just totally out there, he seems to recognize an audience so much more than some of the other modernists. So I don't know, and the language is just uh, staggeringly powerful. The collected poems of W.B. Yeats. You love those eyeglasses. Those great eyeglasses. And this has everything. It just has everything. Mohini Chatterjee, sailing to Byzantium, um, circus animals, desertion, wild swans, cool. Just uh, I don't know. One of my favorite poets, and um, just essential, essential book for my library. And here is the Ignat Avesey translation of The Idiot. This is the only. I love this copy. It's fantastic. Um, what does it say? Yeah, Ignat Avesey. Really interesting cover. And yeah, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about The Idiot in two minutes, but um, great, great novel. And that's it. A lot of these are some of my favorite works. I probably didn't um, give them justice, but um, some oddballs in here, like the Cormac McCarthy, um, but um, one of my favorite shelves. And the strange thing is, I don't touch them, which is odd to me. For almost everything up here, um, I have reader copies. There's other editions that I'm picking up when I want to spend time with them. I don't know if that's always the case. Some of them, anyway. These are some of my favorite books. So, um, let me know if you're interested in any of them. I'm not sure, depending on what you ask for. I'm not sure how willing I'll be, but let me know if you have any thoughts on these books, or opinions on anything that I said, anything like that. Leave a comment if you would like, and thank you for watching.